welcome to Salubrious Skin with Dr Irene. Now today I'm talking about seasonal affective disorder with one of my regular guests, Cheryne Blom. And the reason why Cheryne's a regular guest is because I love the way she simplifies very complex emotions and situations that we all experience day to day, and then makes it relatable so that we can actually identify when we are experiencing these challenges, and then provides us a solution. So I thought, when I was thinking of this topic and going through all the coaches I've spoken in the past, I thought Cheryne is fantastic in her delivering strategies and helping us get through all these little ebbs and flows of challenges in our life. So before I welcome her, I do want to share with you a brief introduction of who Cheryne is, in case you haven't seen any of her podcasts. And if you haven't, I really encourage you to go back and have a look. Just put Cheryne Blom in the blog search on the website salubrious.com.au and her podcast will come up. So Cheryne is a passionate life coach and a meditation teacher and the host of Peace in My Pocket meditation podcast. Cheryne specializes in stress management and self-empowerment to help her clients achieve calm, clarity, and confident courage by managing and dissolving stressful thoughts and emotions. Now, Cheryne also has a book coming out in June, which we'll ask her about a little bit later on, and also a great offer for you to indulge in the wealth of knowledge that Cheryne has. So welcome, Cheryne.
Hello, nice to be back.
Nice to have you. And, you know, it's something, seasonal affective disorder is something that definitely gets mentioned a lot as soon as the weather starts to change. And I think some people may experience it without even knowing what it is. So I thought a great way to start the show is to ask you, why do you think people's emotions are so closely related to the weather?
Okay, well, there's lots of different reasons with regards to that. But when we're talking about seasonal affective disorder, and you know, we get energized, for example, we get energized by the sun, right? We get energized by the light. I like to think of us as light beings. We're energy beings. So when the energy is lower, our energy is lower. When the sun is a little bit subdued, we're more subdued. And, you know, we move with the seasons. So we're supposed to be more subdued in winter, but we live our lives thinking like every day has to be on and going. So a lot of the time we're actually working against nature, and that's what causes a lot of the disorder. So, you know, the reason why we're feeling it is because we're supposed to be feeling it. We're supposed to be going into our winter season within the body, within the nervous system. So we're actually moving in flow with nature, but our lives require us to live the same every day. So we kind of have to see how we can adjust ourselves if we're not going to go and hibernate for, 3 months, which most of us feel like doing.
Yeah.
When we're talking about seasonal affective disorder and when it actually starts to become depression, you're looking at an imbalance in the internal clock, or a disorder in the internal clock, that circadian rhythm. And because the light's affected more in winter, that affects our sleeping patterns. It affects how much melatonin we release and how much serotonin we release. And serotonin is that neurotransmitter that kind of helps to balance mood. So when our serotonin's lower, we tend to feel more heavy. We tend to feel more low. So, you know, there's a couple things there in the sense that, you know, yes, we're moving with the cyclic nature that we're intended to, but we're also moving with disturbances of light and hormone balance. That's going to obviously affect our mood and our thoughts. And what we need to look at is how we can adapt ourselves during this period of time so that we can still function effectively. Okay,
so which emotions would be commonly to be described under the seasonal affective disorder headline, basically?
Well, when it becomes a problem is when a person starts to feel depressed. So you really start to feel low. You start to feel low energy. You start to feel a kind of depletion. You start to feel that kind of melancholic feeling. And obviously severe depression is the concern.
Yeah.
So, you know, we kind of really want to look at it that what we're really talking about is a type of depression. We can classify it as that when we're talking. I don't really like labels anyway, but
I agree.
What we're tending, like if you had to go and see a therapist, it would be treated as if it is a form of depression. So just like you work with depression, you'd work the same way from a psychology or coaching or counseling perspective, like you would with depression.
So it can impact people's appetite and sleep patterns and socialization and job and school and all that sort of thing, just as,
That's where the cycle, because you're feeling lower, you're going to crave more carbs, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Carbs, you're going to have more sugars in your body. You're moving less. The sugars don't really have a place to go. You know, that's going to that the sugar imbalance and the carb imbalance is going to affect you hormonally even more. From a woman's perspective, it probably makes us more estrogen dominant, which makes us feel like the psycho woman when that happens anyway. So it's kind of like a vicious circle, and then we're not sleeping properly, so we feel more tired. It's darker when we wake up in the morning, so that's kind of harder to feel motivated. So, you know, what I like to look at, because you know, anyone that's lived in Melbourne, I say, has a seasonal affective disorder. We all kind of tend to hibernate here in Melbourne when the weather gets like this, and it's so long that you know, it's something that I really had to look at because I struggle in winter Melbourne. So to, you know, at the end of the day, for me, majority of things is a mindset, right? So we have to look at how can we create a summer mindset over winter, and how can we still keep ourselves uplifted when all we want to do is just lie in bed and hide under the covers and hibernate like a good mama bear should, you know? So,
I think you've touched on so many things there that the normality of experiencing these changes as weather changes is absolutely essential for our continued growth and development. And I know with Chinese medicine, we certainly are very much connected with nature, and hibernating is not a bad thing. I guess would it be something that people would need to get on top of as soon as they started noticing changes, or is it something that should just say, well, it's natural, so I just need to go with the flow? Is there a need to do anything? Or
if we were living in touch with nature and we could hibernate for 3 months, you know, that's not practical. We got to get on. We've got lives to lead. We don't, and especially when it becomes that depression, you do want to get on top of that. So what that means is that you don't necessarily need to go into a beach day, right? But we need to create self-care practices, specific self-care practices that are suitable for winter, that are going to make us feel more uplifted, make us feel warmer, you know, and I know you touch on this a lot, but, you know, even for example, you know, eating in season of fruits, you know, fruits and like, you know, your sweet potatoes and things like that are actually going to nurture the nervous system over winter, rather than having kind of cold foods as well that are just going to disturb the liver and kind of make us aggravated. Because that's why I love working with you. We work so hand in hand with, you can't separate the liver and the mind, or the rest of the body and the mind, you know. So we kind of have to nurture both if we really want to feel well. Things that we can talk about today are, you know, mindset hacks that can help you over winter, such as visualization, such as, you know, mindfulness activities, certain exercises, breathing techniques that are designed to warm up the body, are really fantastic. Obviously, keeping warm, doing things that make you feel good, you know, like not necessarily comfort eating, but resourceful activities that make you feel good. You know, I tend to get back into my Bikram yoga over winter. And that for me is like, yes, I'm in 38 degrees, you know, so you know, it's like kind of tricking my body, you know, to think that we're on some kind of exotic island, but you know, and so, or you can go to saunas or a steam room, or, you know, going to the hot springs in the peninsula or Dalesford or something like that. Those are great winter self-care practices to really just nurture yourself while the body's going through this kind of more lull time.
Okay, so you gave a great list of things people can do. So let's work through that. I remember the first one you said was visualization. So
yeah,
what type of visualization, or is it really an individual thing? What makes your heart sing? That's what you visualize, or how would you face that?
Well, you could definitely follow a guided meditation. And I know for a lot of people, they need guided meditation. For them to do their own meditations is kind of difficult. You know, and there's meditations out there. You know, I've got a couple on the Peace in My Pocket podcast. That's all kind of guided meditations that, you know, visualizing yourself on a beach, visualizing yourself on an island somewhere, or on the top of a mountain, or just literally just visualizing the sun or a bright light around you. It kind of, you know, visualization programs the nervous system. So what we're visualizing to the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and imagined. So you can visualize a hot sun, and really, if you are intensely visualizing it and feeling the warmth on your body, you know, feeling the rays surrounding you, feeling the heat. If you are actually intentionally, through your senses and imagination, creating that, to the subconscious mind, it's happening. You'll actually start to feel warmer. You know, it's interesting. I always talk about this example. Years ago, I was working with a woman who had Parkinson's, and her passion in life was hiking. Her and her husband used to go hiking around the world. And the biggest devastation for her when she had Parkinson's was obviously that she couldn't travel anymore. And, you know, we used to do this thing where she set up this beautiful meditation room in her house. She used to put on her hiking boots. And we used to go through these guided meditations of hiking, you know, and she would experience the joy, and she would experience the kind of elevation that the hike would give her. And we were in her mind, you know. It's, you know, what happens in our mind programs the body. It's like Nelson Mandela, you know, he always says, I never spent 27 years in prison. You know, he did that was his office. So it's a mind.
It is. And I think we certainly have to do a podcast in the future about the subconscious mind, because I think what you said was it doesn't differentiate between reality and imaginary. It's whatever information it's being fed, which I think some of us, and I think it's obviously stems from the people that were around us when we were growing up, what words were mentioned or what conversations were had as to what is kind of ingrained in our subconscious mind and how we speak. And I certainly have had patients where there has been, you know, abusive situations where the person was very negative towards them, and when they speak to me, they actually speak in those words as well. So although that's not about today's podcast, but I certainly would want to do one of those in the future, because I think understanding the subconscious brain is an essential part, I think, in living your life to its optimal. So we'll do that later on. But okay, so what I want to go through was, so you said with the visualization and meditation, what other things can someone do to deal with these changes in emotions?
You can also do like breathing techniques, like there's a yoga, like lion's breath, and there's like breathing techniques that you can do, like short and sporadic breathing that actually heat up the body. It's like, like Tibetan monks used to do it in the mountains, you know, that just, you know, like short breathing, holding your breath, letting it out, just creates this kind of heat in the body as well. So you can do breath work, and there are meditations that you can follow that do a kind of warming up breath work. Give me 1 second, Irene. I'm sorry. I have to let my dog out. He's scratching. I'm right here. Open the door. Sorry. So doing some breathing techniques like that, even coming back to the visualization, you know, what I was going to say is that all thought is our imagination. Every single thought we have is using creative imagination. We don't necessarily think about it. We just think that those are those thoughts, but it's actually our imagination. And when you start to visualize to create an intentional emotional state, you use your imagination for what it's used for, right? To actually create a feeling, to create a sensation in the body. So we can visualize anything that makes us feel good. Even just visualizing a color can create an state in the body.
Yeah.
And you know, some people talk about for SAD as well is light therapy, you know, and even incorporate that light therapy while you're doing visualization, which is another really effective way of doing it.
Yeah, that sounds great. So with the breathing that you were saying, if someone was looking for information on that, is there a name that they should be Googling? Is it called something?
There actually is a name, and I will send it to you. I just cannot think of the name right now. It's like literally just out of my head.
It'll come later.
It is. But so you can look up things like fire breath. Like there is something called like fire breathing, things like that. So there is a breathing technique where you visualize like a fire in your belly, and you kind of, you know, and so you're fanning the flames.
Oh, right. Okay.
Called like fire breathing, and that does it. But there is a specific name, and I just can't think of it. But I will look it up afterwards, and we can just put it in the show notes afterwards.
Yeah.
But you know, anything like that, and even just deeper breaths. Like you can, again, using your imagination to breathe, and as you exhale, feel your breath as just a warm sensation going through your body. You know, so again, you're using your breath, you're using the sensations, you're using the resources that you have, your mind, your visualization, your imagination, your breath, all of these things to actually create a state in your body.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you know, it's a distraction from the cold. It's a distraction from, you know, the negativity that we may feel. You know, some people, you know, we're more sedentary in winter. So just that lack of movement. You know, I remember going to listen to a personal trainer speak, Terry Bahat, who's fantastic as well. And she trained in the Israeli Defense Force. And she always used to say, why do you stop walking in winter? The body is waterproof. Like, you're not going to melt if you go outside. You know, so I've actually got, like, now I've just got my walking gear, you know, where I've got my big jacket, my gloves, my hat, my scarf. And I've actually gotten so used to walking in winter that I enjoy it more than summer, you know. So we like keeping that activity going is really, really important as well. Talk therapy is another really important, you know, just actually just going to speak to somebody is really helpful, just to talk through the mood, you know, just talk through the mood, because sometimes when you're, you know, in the space of talk therapy, like with my coaching clients, as you talk it out, you get different perspectives. You know, when you kind of that and you hear it back, you kind of go, oh, you know, this is kind of all in my head, or this is kind of, I'm focusing on the wrong way. And a therapist or a coach can kind of help you just redefine your focus. Journaling is another fantastic resource to do over this time. You know, just journaling the feelings, you know, you kind of, the more you kind of depress them down, the more they're going to kind of happen. So the more you express it and kind of get it out and connect with what you're feeling, the more you can kind of manage it as well.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really important thing, especially if you're starting to feel those kind of deeper depression feelings.
And I think one thing you said about talking to someone, it's really important, because I always find, even with patients, when they're talking to me about whatever concerns they have, they are actually processing it and coming up with solutions as I'm offering them a little bit of insight into why things are happening. And having a coach that you can resonate with. And I know that you do you do Skype or phone?
Yes, I do Skype, time, Zoom.
Yeah, because I think it's I think we all need mentors. We all need, doesn't matter whether we're in business or we're staying at home with our children, because I've actually had 2 conversations with mums of late, and both of them are exhausted. Both of them feel like they shouldn't be feeling this, because motherhood is the best thing, and there's so many people that can't have children, and they feel guilty for wanting that time out. And I know one of them particularly doesn't work, so she's with the children 24/7. And when I said to her, I go, you need to go to a hotel on a Sunday, get a massage, you know, read a book, start nurturing yourself. And you could see the smile that came on her face, saying, yeah, that's what I need. I love my children, but right now I feel like I'm literally spent and haven't had that time for myself.
Mm.
So it's not really whether you're a high power position, or it's just you as a human being needs someone to talk to, who you
Yeah.
can also resonate with. I think it's very important that you speak to someone who has similar thoughts as yourself, because it can be
Yeah.
quite damaging, I think, if you speak to someone who is quite negative, because then they might say, for instance, you complain about your husband not picking up after himself. Someone can say, oh yeah, all men are like this, and marriages are terrible, and all these negative things, as opposed to, you know what, maybe just mention it to him, have a chat, say that it's really hard what you're dealing with, and having a different outlook to it. So I think it's important to find the right person, and that might mean speaking to a few people, but it has to be
Yeah.
someone that you can really resonate with and have that chat that gets you out of those thoughts
Yeah.
and into that different
Yeah.
mindset.
And what I hear from clients is, somebody that really gets you,
Yeah,
and that not really validates your story, because it's actually not necessarily what we want to do as a therapist, is validate a person's story, but really listen empathetically and, help you see different perspectives.
yeah,
Where I would say, like, happiness is a choice. It's and even with the moms, and what we need to do is kind of get out of our heads when we're starting to feel these ways, these low. We've got a story in our head that just cycles and cycles and cycles and keeps us really stuck in that negative reality. So we kind of just need to kind of break that state and break that story, and even have somebody help us get aware of the story that's going in our head.
yeah,
Because sometimes we don't have awareness of what am I saying to myself, and what is my story, and what's actually, am I stuck in self-pity, or am I stuck in self-doubt, or what's actually happening. A lot of the time, the subconscious mind is so complex, and emotions are so complex. I mean, thought travels faster than the speed of light, so we have, something like 80,000 thoughts a day that are generating emotions and feelings in our body and energy in our body that we have no idea what's happening.
yeah. It's incredible, and I think often you can get into that cycle of thought that really gets you stuck, and you don't necessarily know you're doing it. Like I said, I'm pretty sure none of us experience the feeling of 80,000 thoughts a day if they're just happening without us even knowing about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of sorry.
I'm like PD, so I think I've got more.
Now, many people experience this, like you said, it's a normal thing to experience. So they experience it every year. Is there something they should be doing beforehand? I mean, with what you've been saying, it sounds like something we should be doing all the time, 24/7. I mean, not 24/7, but every single day of the year, as opposed to just the cooler months. Is that something that people should be doing to avoid such a slump in their
Yeah.
emotions? Or
Starting now, like starting in like those autumn months, like starting to prepare. It's almost like harvesting soil, starting to prepare the body for those deeper winter months, whether it be and I'm not a naturopath, so, but, so you need to see that, or a Chinese medicine doctor like yourself, of, checking levels and things, because I know, like, even things like incorporating ginger and the acupuncture and all the herbs that you do can also create more warmth in the body. So that's really important to work that in, because if our organs are supported, the mind's going to work effectively.
yeah,
So that's really, really important. Check thyroid levels as well. I always say to people, like, this could be as simple as like a drop in thyroxine, that's disturbing and causing anxiety in the mind. So have all of that checked, and make sure that you are supplementing and supporting the biochemistry in the body of whatever you need. From a mindset perspective, bringing in those visualizations, going to speak to somebody, bringing in, like, thinking to yourself, what can be my winter self-care practices? One of the self-care practices that I've also started to incorporate is flotation therapy. So, going to have these magnesium baths. Magnesium is so healing for the body as well. It's so nurturing. It's warm. It's the lights. It's everything. So that's a fantastic winter self-care ritual as well. Think about things that make you feel happy. you know, things that you can do over winter, whether it be like, you know, I'm gonna go to join a knitting club, for example. I'm gonna knit myself a blanket or the family a blanket or a beanie or something that this is gonna be my winter thing, you know, something that makes you feel good, incorporating all of that. You know, doing a trip, even flying south for the winter or north for the winter, what you say, the southern hemisphere, you know, like actually having something to look forward to. Whether it be like, okay, what's going to be my spring break? What, you know, what am my coming out party? I was saying, like, I'm breaking out of winter in Melbourne. It's like I'm that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, starting to kind of plan things like that is always really helpful. But I definitely would start to kick it in now, you know, at this kind of autumn level, just before winter really kicks in.
Yeah. Because we're just getting those, especially in Melbourne. I don't know about the other states. I'm pretty sure they're warmer around Australia than what we are experiencing, but certainly getting cold, and at night
Yeah.
it's getting really cold and a lot more difficult to get up in the morning.
Absolutely. And don't wait for that drop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because once that serotonin drops, then it's kind of like, then we're going to need, you know, medication and things to kind of really lift our levels. So kind of be more proactive than reactive in
Yeah.
the sense of when you kind of start to feel yourself, oh, I'm just, you know, I'm starting to feel irritable and I'm starting to feel down and I'm starting to lack energy and I'm starting to feel more emotional and depleted. You know, those are all kind of symptoms that you can start to look out for. Just even that feeling, you know, feeling more tired, harder to wake up in the morning, you know, just start to, you know, put things in place.
Yeah.
You know, like even in the morning, like, and it kind of feels kind of counterintuitive, but you know, just doing a very short walk in the morning, and also most importantly, not being so hard on yourself, right?
Yes.
Because, you know, give yourself that little bit of time to maybe sleep in and shift your schedule a little bit, even if it's 20 minutes or something, just to give you, if you're really struggling and you're needing that, let your body work in with nature as much as possible. Go to bed earlier. Yeah, very important over winter. You know, really try working with this cycle as much as you can.
Yeah, sounds all great advice. And one little tip, anyone that knows me, I'm a fan of turkey. Sorry to all those vegans and vegetarians out there, but turkey is actually high in tryptophan, which increases serotonin levels. So certainly looking at your diet, making sure you're avoiding all the, you know, awful things. I know maybe I'm a little bit stricter than what most people are, but certainly avoiding all the sugars, because that can really upset your balance with glucose in your body, and avoiding refined carbs, because that's where you get that slump in the afternoon, keeping the unrefined carbs out of your diet, because you certainly will have more even tone in your emotions than if you're rummaging for the bread or the lollies 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And soups are a great thing, maximum nutrition as well, so make sure everyone should indulge in the soups and stews this time of year. Now, okay, so I want you to talk about a little bit more of the ebook offer you have, and also a little bit about your upcoming book that's going to be released in June.
Okay. Well, with regards to the ebook, there's an ebook on my website, which is CheryneBlom.com, which you can see the spelling in the show notes here. There's an ebook called Think Yourself Happy, which is 101 positive affirmations. So, you know, I'm a big believer of positive affirmations as a way to program our mindset. I always think it's like Google. What we say to ourselves is what we program our bodies to do. So you really want some positive thoughts, especially first thing as you wake up in the morning. So head over to the website. You'll see there's a easy way you can just download the ebook and grab that. Obviously, head over to the podcast, Peace in My Pocket Meditation Podcast. You can find that on Apple iTunes. It's also on my website. You can listen to them on my website. Those are all free guided meditations. I've got one that I've just released today called Quick Anxiety Fix, which is my favorite 10-minute meditation to just get rid of negative energy and kind of that restlessness inside. And I'm going to actually, in a couple of weeks, be starting a new podcast called The Self-Discovery Show, which will deal with all the topics of my book, which is called The Courage to Be You, which is all about my coaching model of how we get out of the negative kind of ego mindset, the story of limitation, the I'm not good enough story, and how we connect back with our authentic self, our essence, and really manage ourselves in every moment to be that truth, to be the courage to be your truth and your authentic self in every moment.
Sounds
So
awesome.
that is, at the moment it's the 24th of June, but you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's all on track.
Now I wanted to ask you about affirmations.
Yeah.
How many times a day do we need to be, because you said there's 80,000 thoughts, and
80,000.
I remember and I remember Louise Hay, I'm not sure if I've got the numbers right, but did she say we need to be saying affirmations 400 times a day or something?
I had 600 in my head that I once heard her say 600 affirmations. Look, ideally, we want to program ourselves to be as positive as possible. The mind doesn't necessarily work that way, and we don't necessarily need to be, you know, I'm all unicorns and sunshine all the time, because we need all emotion to function. But it's also catching when you're in that sabotage thoughts, you know, like, oh, I can't do this, or that self-doubt, that you can really flip those thoughts. So, you know, I like to kind of use positive affirmations as just that kind of flip, in the sense of when I hear myself in that negative mindset, to be able to just go, stop, you know, what's another way that I can see this? Okay, I am proud of myself, rather than being hard on myself. You know, if I'm beating myself up, as you know, women tend to do, you know, okay, actually, no, I'm proud of myself. I am really proud of yourself. The subconscious mind will believe whatever you say after the words I am. So you really can, I am a truck. And if you say that enough, the subconscious mind will believe. So it's understanding the power of it, and really finding language that lights you up. To do that, sorry, I just see that I lost you there for a second. But you know, so positive affirmations are a really, really important way of understanding that, just getting the language inside our head, not necessarily positive. When I mean positive, not so much of that, like, you know, sunshine and rainbows and you know, lollipops and all of that, but more directional is what I mean by positive, is that we're actually telling the mind and programming the mind what I want to feel, as opposed to what I don't want to feel. So like I used the example before of, I'm proud of you, right? When I say I'm proud of myself, it puts me more in a gratitude mindset. It puts me more in an optimistic mindset. I start to look at everything that I am doing, rather than the one thing that I feel I did wrong. Right? So, you know, just it's a really, really important techniques to keep on.
I remember just a few weeks ago, I did a seminar in Sydney, and I was standing in front of everyone, and, you know, it can be a bit nerve-wracking, obviously. And these are my peers, these are other Chinese medicine practitioners. And I just said two words. I said abundance and prosperity. And I just had this calm come over me, and I did my thing. And I had so many people come up to me going, oh, that was a great presentation. And, oh, you look so relaxed. And I was thinking, really? That's good. I'm glad it gave off that, because I was definitely aiming for that. And I could feel those nerves starting to simmer. And I just said those two words, and this calm came over me. And, you know, no one gave me a pep talk. It was just me just saying those words. And it was amazing. So they certainly work. And I'm going to head on over and get your ebook there.
I always think, if you just think about it, how it works, like on this formula, that thoughts are frequencies. So if you have a positive thought, you're going to have, I am proud of myself. It's going to give me a frequency of joy. It's going to give me a happiness frequency. That frequency vibrates at a higher hertz, right? Like our energy is measured on hertz. So, you know, if I'm in a high, if I've had a thought that creates a higher frequency energy in the body, I'm going to give off that frequency, right? If I'm giving a negative thought and I go, oh, you know, I'm always messing up, I always fail, I always let myself down, that's going to create more fear in the body. It's going to create more negativity. My energy is going to contract rather than expand, right? And then people are going to feel that contracted energy. It's not going to feel as good. So really understanding that equation of that every thought creates a frequency. And when we start to really control that and be in control of that, then we're really managing our energy effectively.
And it's just something that happens quite quickly. I think a lot of us can feel, oh, this is going to take forever, but it actually happens instantly almost, isn't it? It's amazing.
It is like that.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop talking because I can be going on for much longer. But thank you, Cheryne, for today. It was so insightful and a wealth of knowledge, and so many things people can do to start off the next season, which we're not too far away from, and understanding the importance, I think, of exercise and self-love, and getting onto those resources you've said as well, because I love reading stuff. For me, I find that just as good, if not better, sometimes talking, because you get so enthralled in the book that it really starts to make those changes in your mind. So head on over to CheryneBlom.com. Is that right? Yep. And it'll be on the show notes, as Cheryne mentioned before. So thank you for tuning into another episode of Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene, and be sure to check out Cheryne's website and all the beautiful things she has on offer. And I will definitely have her on again soon, and you'll certainly know about it in the coming weeks or months. Who knows? It's all a surprise. I'll catch you later. Bye for now.
Bye.